So in section 10.3 here, we are going to start looking at polar coordinates. Polar coordinates, you can actually think of them as parametric coordinates with two parameters, but that's a lot of times that's not the most helpful way to think about them. In polar coordinates, you locate points by specifying a radial distance from the origin here, and then theta is going to be a counterclockwise angle from the positive x-axis. That's the default. Now, you actually can have negative radius, so if you go out radially in the opposite direction, so instead of along the positive x-axis, along the negative x-axis, then you can specify positive angle or a negative angle. So there's actually some redundancy in the way you locate points. So for example, if we want to locate the point 1 and 2 pi over 3, so let's actually get our x-axis in here. So there's our x-axis and our y-axis. And then these polar grids that I've got here are set to mark off in twelfths of pi. So here's our x-axis, here's our y-axis. So this is pi over 2 up here. Okay, and then there's 6 pieces of pi over 2, so each one of these is 1/12 pi. So that means this is going to be 2/12 or pi over 6. This one is pi over 4, 3/12. And then this one is 4/12 pi over 3. And then you can get the corresponding angles doing reflections around the circle. So 1, 2 pi over 3, that's going to go out. Let's say that these are labeled in halves. So that's 1 unit and 2 units. So we'd go out 1 radially here, and then we'd rotate 2 pi over 3 counterclockwise. So pi over 3 is here. 2 pi over 3 would be right there. So it would be that point right there. Now notice that's the same thing as, notice that this is the same as if you did a positive 1 radially and then went pi and another pi over 4 pi over 3 in the opposite direction. So this is the same as 1 comma negative 4 pi over 3. And then if you went out and did a negative radius, so if you went along the negative x-axis, then you could go pi over 3 to the right. So you could also specify that as negative 1. Let's see, I'm sorry, clockwise is negative pi. So this would be negative pi over 3. Or you could, go the other direction and use a positive angle. So there is some redundancy, but this is the standard way to do it. Along the positive x-axis radially and then counterclockwise angle. So here we want to locate the point 2, negative pi over 2. Okay, so we're going to go out 2 units radially along the positive x-axis. So that's right here. And then negative pi over 2. So pi over 2 would be counterclockwise, negative pi over 2. So we're going to go out here and then come down negative pi over 2 to right there. So that's the point 2 comma negative pi over 2. Which is the same as, let's see, this would be the same as 2. And then if we wanted a positive angle, we'd have to go pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2. And then if we wanted negative radius, let's see, we go out negative and then counterclockwise pi over 2. So this would actually be the same as negative 2, comma, let's see, negative 2, and then counterclockwise is a positive angle, pi over 2. So negative angle, negative radius, and then both positive. And then this one, negative 1.5, negative 3 pi over 2. So negative 1.5, we are going to go out. This is 1, 2, 1, 2. So negative 1.5 would be right here. So I'm going to go out to here. And then negative angle is clockwise, 3 pi over 2. So pi over 2. So pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2. So it'd be this point right here. And then an easier way to write this angle with two positives would be positive 1.5. That would take you out to here, and then just go counterclockwise. Oh no, I'm sorry, I located that wrong. I was going counterclockwise. I want to go clockwise. Negative angles clockwise. Back up the bus. So from this point, I want to go clockwise. So I'm going to go pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2. There we go, right there. And then I could have specified this with a positive angle. If I would have gone positive 1.5, that would take me out here. And then, let's see, we'd have to go counterclockwise, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2. So that would be one other way to specify. So try the WebAssign section 10.3 problem 1. They're going to have you, locating some points and then looking at different ways to specify those points with either a positive negative radius or a positive negative angle.